And what else is there to do than sit down, relax with a good cup of coffee, and appreciate what we like most: vintage timepieces and watchmaking. Let me set this aside here so there's no accident. Welcome to Watch Adventures with JK. That's me. Hi. And I brought for this live stream a watch that is a recent flea market find. I found this interesting. It's a small, really small, tiny, as you can see here with my thumb as a reference. And no, I don't have large hands, I have rather normal hands. This watch is very, very small. It's a stainless steel watch, full stainless steel case. And yeah, let's have a look in close detail. What is wrong with this watch? Because when I bought it, it was running, and it is not running anymore. As you can see here, the watch is stopped. So let's first look at the outside. As I said, stainless steel case, front and back. The back is unsigned. The watch is branded Cini. I've never heard of this brand before, so I did a little research and I found that the brand actually belonged to a company called Aubry Frères that was founded in 1917 in Le Normand in Switzerland. It's halfway between Bienne and Neuchâtel in the Swiss Jura Mountains, so very close to all the other places, all the other famous watchmaking places in Switzerland that you've probably heard about. The company started using the Cini brand in 1928, and they used it until the mid-70s. As I said, I've never heard about this brand before, and I also didn't hear about Aubry Frères before, but then I read something about it and I noticed, well, this I definitely know. The company acquired in 1978 the rights to use the Doxa brand, and that is something I heard about and you probably heard about too. So much maybe for history. Let's continue looking at the features of the watch, and maybe I'll show you the watch dial and the hands in a little bit closer and a little bit of closer shot here. So up here, Cini, the brand. It is probably hard to see, but when I angle this a little bit, then you can see that better. The print on the watch dial is held in a nice blue tone. There's a little bit of lume missing in the minute hand here. The second hand is missing the red paint in some parts here in the middle and over here. Not too bad. The numerals also have applied lume, and it looks worse in the microscope shot here than it actually looks when you have the watch on your wrist. So not too bad, as you can see here. Maybe I angle it a little bit. There you go. The hands are also blued. It's probably hard to see with the reflection here. Yeah. So the case, let me switch back. The case is held very simple. This crown probably does not belong to this watch. When I looked on the internet and found a couple of images of similar watches from that time period, then I found that this crown is probably more flat, or the original crown was probably more flat. This one here with the bulgy crown is likely a replacement, and it is also quite worn. The case has a very simple finishing. It has straight graining here on the sides. It's difficult to see, I think. Well, maybe we can see a little bit later. It has straight graining here on this side, also on the opposite side here. And otherwise, the lugs and this fake bezel here was polished. Obviously, the lugs are not really polished anymore. As you can see, they're quite scuffed up after that amount of time. And speaking of time, this watch is from the late 1940s, probably early 1950s, but that's about it. So this watch is at least 70 to 75 years old, and given that fact, I think it is in quite good condition. So what we're going to do is we will open up the watch and then see what is wrong with it, why it is not running. It was running, as I said before, but it stopped. So we will, I think, find out in the stream what is wrong with it. Okay, so let's flip it over. And I already loosened the watch back a little bit, so we can remove it more easily. There we go. Let's move that out of the way and look at the watch back first. So we see it is also signed here, Cine Watch Swiss. There's the serial number. And there are quite a few watchmakers marks in here. Yeah. And interestingly, the inside of the watch back is decorated. It has perlage. So that's a quite nice touch. Okay. And now let's see what the movement looks like. let's see why it's not running. Okay, at first glance, we can see there's rust over here. This is a case clamp. So half of a screw that, when turned, keeps the watch in the case, but it is, let me zoom in a little bit. It is damaged and there's oil. Okay, so yeah, you can see that part of this screw is broken off. It should not look like this. That happened probably while maybe the last watchmaker tried to remove the watch from the case. Then it came off. Luckily, it is in this position in a way that we can hopefully get it out, get the watch out of the case without damaging anything further. Let's have a look on the other side. Yeah, this looks pretty similar. There's no rust here, but the screw is also damaged. So we'll have to find a solution for that. Otherwise, the watch can't be fixed in the watch case properly again. Okay, what else can we see? There's a case screw missing over here. The other one is here. Okay. That is interesting. There's a screw hole here with no screw inside. But it's not really clear what this screw is for. It maybe is a screw for this bridge, for the barrel bridge here. Interesting. All right. Let's have a look further here. Let's see. The balance is moving freely. Okay, that looks good. The pallet fork also moves, as you can see, but interestingly enough, the escape wheel didn't move. Let me show you. And again, let's see. Yeah, the escape wheel only moves a little bit back and forth, but it doesn't really turn. So maybe the train is jammed somehow. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be interesting when we take this apart and see what else is going on in there. Okay. Let's gear up and then start with the disassembly. So, okay. Get some tools out. And that's it. Okay, so first I'm gonna remove the case screw. Over here. There we go. So now we should be able to lift away the case ring here. Let's see, this is free, it should be free now. Yep. Okay. There we go. Oh. What is this? There's a screw in here. In place. It's quite unusual. Let's see. Yep. And there was a loose screw in there. Let's see where this is coming from. When we disassemble further. All right. Okay, let's see that we can let down the power from the mainspring. one more time. This is quite fiddly. Otherwise, if this doesn't work, then oh yeah, now it's working. Okay. So this is turning. You can see I'm barely holding the crown here, and the power goes down very slowly. So this is probably due to lack of maintenance for a long time and everything being very sticky in here. Yep. All right. Okay, let's get the movement out of the case and then see what we can find when we remove the hands and the dial. There we go. Oh, there's rust. So this is where the moisture came in. Let's hope we only find rust here and not in the movement later on. Okay, we can now flip on the watch over on this cushion, and there we go. Let me quickly take a look at the inside of the case. Yeah, looks quite good. There's not a lot of dirt and rust there. The crystal obviously is quite scratched, but I think we can keep the crystal and polish it. So, what do we have here? Now, the dial has this nice champagne color. I think there is a little bit of pitting. Let's zoom in a bit. Yeah. Well, but with a watch this old, there's probably some damage to the varnish to be expected. Okay, let's remove the hands and then the dial and then continue on. So, cover cover this up. Let's see. The second hand moves freely, more or less, which is also interesting and troubling. Okay, no stress on the hands here. There's rust on the second hand, on the underside of the second hand, so I'll have to remove that too very carefully. Okay, the hands are safe. Now let's see what we can do with the dial. Let's find the dial foot screws. There is one. And this is where the other one should be, but it isn't there. It is, though, not the screw that was loose in the case. That one is too small to fit in here. All right. Let's remove this one. Oh, this one is loose too. Okay. So the dial comes off very easily here. Let's turn it over and have a look at it. The dial feet are intact. Yeah. You can see the imprint of the screws. So there has been one screw on either side in the past, but it got lost. Okay, so I will clean up this dial very carefully to remove a little bit of the specks that are on here, but otherwise I won't do much to this dial because I think it's still in pretty good condition after all these years, and it looks very nicely. So let's get this to the side, and then let's see what kind of movement is in here. Because the movement stamp is here on this side. And we have an FHF caliber 183 in here. So let's have a look. We can see from here, if you can see some obvious damage already. Looks good so far, I think. Yeah. Okay. What is that? Discoloration here. Let's see. Maybe it's old lubrication. No. Doesn't come off. Okay, we'll see if it comes off afterwards when we clean everything. So let's lift this hour wheel off. Okay. As you can see, every now and then the balance starts running, so it wants to go. I can't really. Okay, I think we get a movement holder out and then continue on the train side of the movement. Let's flip this over. Put it on a holder. There it is. Okay, let's continue. Remove the balance first. this off. There we go. Let's have a closer look. The hairspring is blued. Okay. Set this aside. So we continue with the disassembly layer by layer, and then next would be to remove this cock here that is holding the pinion for the sweep second hand. The screw looks quite butchered. Let's try not to do any more damage to it. There we go. Easy. Okay. Then let's lift out the sweep second pinion now. There we go, it came out pretty easily because there's a spring underneath that puts a little bit of tension on it, and that spring pushed it upwards. You can see the spring here. It's held by this screw. Okay, so next is this wheel here that is mounted on top of the, let's see, which one is that? In this case, the third wheel. This is friction fit on the pinion of the third wheel, and to remove that, we have to use a special tool, a special Presto tool, the one for wheels with uneven spokes. Let me show you. It is this one, the one with the blue handle, and it has focus. It has two teeth on one side and one. Let's do this again. There are two on one side, and then on the other side it has one. So these two go over one of the spokes of that wheel, and the other one goes under the wheel, and then hopefully we can lift that out. I don't know if I can show you this. Let's see when I switch cameras. Maybe I can show you this. Focus. All right, let's see. So we go over the two spokes. Wait a second. Two spokes on this side, and then under the wheel on this side. There is not really there wasn't really a lot of effort necessary because the wheel was basically loose, which is also not a good sign in terms of reassembly. Let me check this one. There we go. So yeah, this was the top of the wheel. And this is the underside. And it looks like somebody tried to do something already. So yeah, we'll have to see that we can compress this again a little bit to be able to refit this wheel on the pinion. Let's have a look at the pinion. What's this one? Yeah. Looks good. Okay. Now let's continue with the disassembly. Let's remove the pallet fork first and get that secured. There's the pallet hook down here, one screw. Let's get it out. That is not the correct size. Okay. There might be a tiny bit of power left in the mainspring. We'll see if we be extra careful when removing the pallet fork. Looks good. And now the pallet fork. Let's have a look at the pivots. Yeah, pretty good. Although we can see one problem already here. Let me flip this over, and it's probably better to see. Not like this. That is bent, obviously, and that needs to be addressed. So while doing assembly, this needs to be addressed. The pin is in the middle, but it is bent. So let's have a look at the jewels. This one looks good. This one looks good too. Okay. So continuing, let's see. Yeah. Let's continue with the barrel bridge here. Oh, no, maybe let's continue with the train first. So the train bridge has two screws. One is here, one is over here. This screw only holds the friction spring for the sweep second. So we'll start this screw here on the outside. Let's see. This screw is a little bit damaged. The screw slot is a little bit damaged. Okay. Next one is this screw here. All right. So we'll turn this a little bit to get to the slot over here. There we go. moved it away. Let's have a look at the jewels. Yeah, they look good. And while we're here, let's remove the friction spring too. So the jewel for the center wheel can be cleaned properly. Oops. Not quite loose yet. I should have probably removed that first before removing the bridge, because it is really fiddly now. There we go. All right. Check the jewel one more time. Yeah, the center jewel also looks good. And you can see here there's lubrication where there shouldn't be lubrication. This was where that cock that held the sweep second pinion was mounted. There shouldn't be any lubrication underneath. Okay. So let's get the train out. Escape wheel. Let's have a look at the pinions. Yeah. Dirty, but they still look good. Okay. Next up, fourth wheel. Check the pinions here too. I mean, the pivots, of course. All right. Let's see, I don't think we can get this out. I should have, yeah. The barrel bridge needs to be removed first. So we'll be extra careful not to damage the wheels. Get the winding wheel, the crown wheel, and the ratchet wheel removed. Let's see. Okay, counterclockwise, I mean clockwise, in the opposite direction than the other screws. Interestingly, this screw didn't have any indication for that, but nonetheless. Very dirty. In need of urgent cleaning. Let me show you this. This little ring here, you can see how much old and dirty lubrication there is. This is so sticky that the ring doesn't come loose from the screw. See, so now it's separated. Okay. Let's continue. Next up is the ratchet wheel. This is not fully in focus. Now the ratchet wheel can come off. Yeah. There was a slight bit of power left in the mainspring that got released when I lifted this off. So now we can remove the center wheel. Oh no, we can't, because there's a cannon pinion on the other side. Yeah. Let's turn this over. This is the third wheel. Let's have a look. This looks like a bent pivot. Or does it? Let's have a look again. Yeah. I'll have to look closer later on, but it seems like this pinion might be bent on top. I'll have a closer look later on. Okay. So in order to remove the center wheel, the cannon pinion has to come off. Let's see. This is too small. No. Using this one. There we go. Cannon pinion. And now we can remove the center wheel. There we go. Yeah. Dirty, but looks good otherwise. Okay, so what is left on this side is the barrel, and before removing that, I will quickly check the play here. Not too bad. could be, oh yeah, well, it's a little bit too much that needs to be addressed. There's a little bit too much play here. So let's quickly check the other side. Yeah, very dirty. Okay. So barrel bridge. There are 2 screws here, possibly 3 with this one missing. So that was the wrong one. Now the second one here. There we go. There's also lubrication down here. You can see up on the top there shouldn't be any lubrication under the bridge. All this here. There's not much left on this side. We can remove the sliding pinion. These teeth look very worn. And we can remove the winding pinion. Okay, that's it on this side. So I'll look at the jewels here. A lot of dry lubrication. But the jewels look good. Okay. Well, let's flip it over and then disassemble the rest of the keyless works. Okay. Now we're going to have to be extra careful with that yoke spring underneath because it moved already. As you can see, it moved out of its place here. tension is gone, so it won't jump at us. Let's remove this screw. This looks a little bit like rust, maybe. I have to see. So the yoke spring is free. And the yoke can be lifted off. This little washer here on top of the intermediate wheel. Oops. There it is. And the setting wheel. Okay, so that concludes the disassembly of this FHF caliber 183, sorry, in a tiny Cine watch from the late 1940s. Interestingly enough, it's not really clear what that additional screw is that we found in here. It is not one of the dial foot screws, because this one is larger than the other one. So yeah, that's a little bit of a mystery. And I think the main reason reason why the watch wasn't running and the train was stuck was this possibly slight bent upper pinion here on the third wheel, or lower pinion actually, because this is the upper part, that is where the intermediate wheel for the sweep second hand sits on, but the lower part seems to be slightly bent, and that might be the reason why the train was kind of stuck. The question is, of course, why did that happen? Because that doesn't happen just like that, and there was no obvious reason to be found. So maybe I will see something else while cleaning or after cleaning and further inspection. Yeah, we'll have to see. Also, what needs to be addressed was the slight bent, upwards bent pin here on the pallet fork. At least it needs to be checked. Maybe it needs to be like this. It certainly looks a little bit weird. It needs to be checked, of course. So, well, that concludes the disassembly of this watch. There's a lot of parts lined up all the way here. I'm gonna clean them now and then check them again and see if anything is there that I maybe have missed during the disassembly. And then in another stream maybe, or in another recording, I will show you the assembly and hopefully also what the watch, when it's assembled and working again, what it looks like. All right, thank you so much for watching and spending your your Sunday afternoon with me. If you watch this live, or if you watch the recording afterwards, thank you for that. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.